I mean, I don't know how to do CPR, but I've seen enough movies. So I'm pumping this guy's chest. I'm giving him mouth to mouth. He's not breathing, not moving. And it was a dark night, but for whatever reason, it was like the moonlight behind me was like almost shining a spotlight on him so I could see what the hell I was doing. And I just kept doing it, man. I just kept like pumping his chest. I kept giving him mouth to mouth, holding his nose. I tilted his head. I didn't know if I was doing it right. I was just like such a surreal feeling when the longer you're doing that and the more you're seeing this person not breathing, you're like, this person could possibly die in front of my eyes.
Welcome to the top.
Oh, yeah.
We killing annual quotas. It's the 1% show, in case you haven't noticed.
First job, my first business was at the University of Arizona, right? In Tucson, Arizona. I was selling to local business owners. And it's not easy, but you go to one owner, they say no, you go to the next one, and then eventually you do that enough times, you get enough no's, someone's going to give you a check. I left school, went to Scottsdale, Arizona after college, and grew my business nationally to over 2,200 colleges and universities. So now no longer could I knock on an owner's door. I had to go figure out what it's like to run a longer sales cycle. In the first couple of months, I didn't know if I was talking to the decision maker or not. I was probably talking to the janitor, just happy somebody would talk to me, right? And I started to figure out, this guy has no juice. What am I doing spending my time talking to this person? Right, and I also realized one thing too, the amount of money that I saved up to run the business was not enough. That's when I learned the importance of cash flow, right? Cash is king. In a longer sales cycle, I had to inject money into my business, into my product to sustain my living expenses. And I remember going into the office, saying hi to the receptionist, saying hi to my partner, just feeling good, right? And then sitting down and saying, man, I'm broke. Like I have like maybe 2 months left of runway. I got to figure out how to make some extra money and still keep my dream alive on the side. And then I remember driving home that night. It was really dark. And I don't know, looking back, like I felt this heavy weight on my shoulders, and it felt like, I was spiraling out of control as far as like emotionally, mentally. It just felt like my mind, my thoughts were going down. Like, what if I don't make it? What if I don't find a job? And then boom, I hit a curb. So I'm like, holy shit. I get out of the car. I look at my tire and it's like sideways. And I'm like, what the fuck? So now I got to drive home 5 miles an hour. And I'm saying, how much is this going to cost now? So basically that 2-month runway was gone. I had to actually put that into my car just like that. Right now I have to put that into my car so I can now make it to work. So now I'm going in, and you can't show that. When I'm going into the office, I'm going in confident, and I actually loved cold calling. I loved working. I loved selling because it took my mind off of me being broke. It took my mind off of what the hell I'm going to eat for lunch or dinner. My parents were 3,000 miles away in New Jersey. And I knew if I kept asking them for money, they were going to tell me to come home. I'd give up your business, right? So I stopped doing that as much as I could. And it got to a point where at lunchtime in my office, I'd say, okay, let me pull out the newspaper. What can I do moonlighting, right? What can I do at night that will give me some cash flow to keep my dream alive? And there were a couple of things that I saw. The first thing, Tom, I think you know this, was selling alarm systems in Phoenix, in the worst, probably not the best areas of Phoenix. Some dude would just drop me off and say, all right, Paul, I'll pick you up in 3 hours, right? And then boom, he's gone. And I'm looking around like, okay, now it's time for me to knock on a door with like this backpack on with an alarm system. And people are like, who's knocking on our door? And I'd have to say, oh yeah, someone's house just got robbed, down the street. And that was probably the hardest sales job I've ever had. I couldn't even get into someone's house, and it started to get dark. And then that's when like, all right, now it's time for me to get the hell out of here. But then I never gave up. I said, I felt so confident in my skills. I'm like, I could do this. I just have to tweak little things. So I stopped wearing the suit, put on a polo shirt, right, dressed down a little bit. And I said, okay, how do I qualify buyers out? What's the best way to do that? So I started looking at the lawn. The lawn was unkept. If they had the car in the driveway that had a ton of dents in it, probably not interested in an alarm system, right? So I would say, okay, let me go to a different house. And then I started selling one alarm a day. But the thing is, it really wasn't making enough money. Like I get a call the next day to say, hey, Paul, the guy that you sold to Call back 2 days later, not gonna install it, right? So it was making just enough to kind of pay the rent, but not really. So I was like, this is not gonna work for me. Let me look again at another job. And I saw like telemarketing at night. I think it was an hourly rate. I'm like, let me try that. So I go into the office, it's at night, and there's this conference room. It's like boiler room, but legit. Like they were just setting up meetings. That was like the B-rate version of myself. So I walk into this room, my first night there, and there's like a big round table. Everybody has a desk, by their seat and the headset. And the manager is like in the middle of the big circular table, listening to everyone's calls. And there's like a set of steak knives in the middle of the table. Like, I guess if you set the most appointments, that was your prize, right? And I'm like, I can't believe what I'm doing right now, right? So I start calling and listen to everyone's pitch. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of not good. That's terrible. I'm not saying that. So this is what I did all day, right? So I put the headset on, first person picks up, I start talking to her, and I have her laughing, and then I'm like, oh yeah, you want to do this? Fine. I don't know if I don't remember what it was exactly, but I did that like 3 or 4 times throughout the night. And I was like, what a great night. And I look at the clock, I'm like, holy shit, only 10 minutes has passed by. I took my headset off, I put it down, and I'm like, I'm sorry, man, I can't do this, right? I walked out, the guy chases me out the building. He's like, dude, that was phenomenal, man. You're amazing. I'll bump you up an extra $2 an hour.
Well, you're Jordan Belfort selling, what was it, Aerodyne or whatever?
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. People were looking at me like, wow, because that's all I was doing all day, right, for my own business.
Yeah.
And this guy said, I'll bump you up to $2 more an hour. I'm like, dude, that's not moving the needle, man. I got to find something else, right? So that's when I realized, like, I have to do something.
Do you still have your business at this time, Paul, too? So this is the moonlighting gig?
This is still my business, yeah. So during the day, I'm running the business.
Okay.
And I'm trying to find something at night. Right.
Okay,
so then
so this is the moonlighting while the business.
This is the second one.
The business is still running. All right.
And that was one night gone. Forget it. And then I finally see another ad in the paper, and it says marketing consultant for Nissan. We'll pay you to train you, like $2,500. So I just walk into the dealership. I'm like, I'm here for the marketing consultant. I'm trying to interview, suit and tie. It's like, oh yeah, just have a seat over there. So I sit down, the guy comes back, and after 5 minutes, I'm like, this dude is interviewing me for a car salesman job. Like, this guy just got me into the showroom to talk to me about a car salesman job. And then at the end, he's like, we'll pay you $2,500 to go through the training. And I was like, man, that was good. You got me in here, but I'll do it. I'll do the training, right? So the next thing you know, the next couple of days, I'm in training in a car dealership, looking around in a training class. All these people have their own stories on why they shouldn't be there. Oh, I'm just doing this for extra. But it's like Uber drivers, right? Sometimes like, oh, I'm just doing this for this. I'm doing this for that, right? And that's the same story I had. Oh, I got my own business. I'm just trying. I just felt like, all right, let me just get through the training. I'll get the $2,500 and then I'll get out of here. Not knowing that part of the training is going on the floor and actually selling cars, right? So I'm like, what the hell? Right, dude? So
they loop you in. Yeah, we'll give you $2,500 in training, but you got to sell 6 cars to complete the training course. So,
yeah, and then we'll give it to you in like 2 weeks. You're like, oh, wow. Okay. So not only am I doing this now, I had spending no time in my business all day in this room training, but I still learned something through that experience that I took with me today. Is when I first started, someone was interested in the car and I'd run to the lot, start sweating, and get the key, I'd get the car back, run back. And then I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not really interested. See ya. And then I did that a few times. I'm like, what am I rushing for? And I still apply this to the sales cycle today. The more you pace yourself and take your time, the more the buyer invests in you, in the process, in the time, the harder it is for that buyer to walk away, right? So slow down the process. So I learned at least that. But I started to get pretty good. During the training class, this one guy was like, and I haven't been out for a while. I was like, hey, let's go out for a drink after this. I'm like, sure. No problem. Went out for a drink. I come home, and all of a sudden I see my roommate. I was living with 2 roommates in Scottsdale. One of my roommate was dragging the other roommate out of the garage. He tried to commit suicide. He left his car on with the garage doors closed. So he was not breathing. I don't know how long he was in there for. My one roommate dragged him out, and I'm coming home, and I'm like seeing all this going on. My one roommate just leaves him there on the grass, freaking out, holding his head. I'm like, all right, that guy's out of play. I don't know what's going on. I'm looking down at this guy, and I'm like, all right, I mean, I don't know how to do CPR, but I've seen enough movies. So I'm pumping this guy's chest. I'm giving him mouth to mouth. He's not breathing, not moving. And it was a dark night, but for whatever reason, it was like the moonlight behind me was like almost shining a spotlight on him so I could see what the hell I was doing. And I just kept doing it, man. I just kept like pumping his chest. I kept giving him mouth to mouth, holding his nose. I tilted his head. I didn't know if I was doing it right. I was just like, such a surreal feeling when the longer you're doing that and the more you're seeing this person not breathing, you're like, this person could possibly die in front of my eyes, right? And I am not going to let that happen. I am going to continue to do this, whatever this is, this type of CPR, until the ambulance gets here. So I was doing that, and it was almost like an outer body experience where I saw myself from the top doing that. And finally, he starts coughing. He
starts coughing.
He comes to. And the ambulance come. The cops come. And the sad thing is, when the cops come, you know what I'm thinking in my head? Did I pay my because they look for my license. Did I pay my auto insurance? Right? These are the things that are going on in my head. I'm like, am I going to get arrested now for not paying did I pay my auto? I have no idea. Right? So going back now, I get back into, my moonlighting job, which is now taking over my job. I'm now doing this for a couple of months, and I'm getting pretty good at it. Right? So I'm expecting a pretty decent check at the end of the month, which won't get me out of there, but it'll at least start to get money in the bank and start to get my feet under me. And then I get into the training room, and the GM puts all the sales people together, and he says in a whiteboard, we're doing a bracket challenge, like March Madness, right? So whoever is ranked the highest from last month gets top seed. And I was somewhere in the middle. So there were people there that were there for years, had books of business. I just started. I'm literally standing outside waiting for anyone to come up, and I'll talk to them, right? So I was like, okay. And then they said the winner of this tournament gets 20 G's in addition to all the commission you make. So the way you advance in the tournament is if you sell a car and the other person doesn't, you advance. If you both sell a car, it's based on profit margin. And if one sells two, the other one sells one, the one who sells two advances. Tom, Heather, this is
like in a day? In a day or whatever?
No, this was over a course of a week, probably. Right?
Okay, so you get your matchups for the week.
Every day is a tournament, right? Every day is a bracket, right?
Oh, okay. So every day is a new matchup. All right.
And there were a lot of people there, but I had confidence in myself, and I was fully focused. And I said, "This is my way out of here. This is my ticket out." First round, I sell something, the other guy doesn't. Easy. I'm into the next round. I sell one, he sells one. My profit margin is higher. Easy. Next day, on to the next round. Now we're moving. Right? Now we're moving. But now I'm going against the guys that have the book of business, that have been there for years, that are calling favors in for their friends. Right? So
now you're like the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. So you got
now in the Sweet 16, but here's where I make it to the final. I'm actually made it to the Final Four. Right? Final Four. And this guy, people were saying, oh, this guy, he already has two people coming in to buy from him. And I'm waiting for people to come up. And I'm just focused. People are going to the bathroom. They're going in. I'm just staying outside the entire time, just waiting for anybody to come out. I don't care. Get one car sold. He got a car sold. Cool. And that's it. His second guy wasn't coming in. I get a call from the guy I went to training with, who we had a drink with. He's like, Paul, are you still there? I'm like, yeah. Are you still at the other location? He's like, nah, I quit after like 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, cool. What's going on? Can't really talk. I'm like, there's like this tournament going on. I gotta focus. It's like, yeah, that's where I'm calling you, because I actually want to show my uncle the new Z. Can you help him out? And I'm like, yeah, dude, can you come today? That'd be great. So he comes today, comes with his uncle. I'm there till late, right? They kept it open just so we could get it done. Boom. Get him through. I make it to the finals. Right? So now I'm coming into the finals. And the GM is holding all of us in the office, pepping us up. And he's giving a speech. And I swear to God, it felt like he was talking to me about his hardships. His like when he couldn't afford to do this, he couldn't afford to do that. And it was like inspiring. I'm like, man, it felt like this guy's talking to me. And he's like, all right, break. I'm like, all right, I'm winning this thing. So as soon as we break, he's like, hey, Paul, can you come here? I'm like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, those two guys want to see you, and they want to bring you over to the owner's office. It's like, all right, cool. right? So the owner maybe wants to give me like a bonus or something. Maybe he wants to do. I'm excited. Follow the two.
Who are the two guys? Who are the two guys that he
They're
points to?
detectives.
Detectives.
They show me their badge. They say, "Follow me." So I'm like, right away, I'm like, I'm not getting a bonus. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I don't know what's going on. So they put me into the boardroom. Owner's not there, just these two guys grilling me about how I know this guy that I sold the car to last time, and how close were we? And I was like, I met him here like 2 months ago in your training class. He just called me. That was it, right? And the whole time I'm thinking, guys, you're wasting my time. I got to go back. I got to win the tournament. You're wasting my time. Come to find out that this guy falsified information. It wasn't even his uncle. So they literally stole the car. How they got through finance, I have no idea. But now they were trying to figure out if I was in on it. So once they realized I was not in on it, they basically said, hand in your badge. You're done. You're fired. Right? And I was
just because they thought you were in on it. They thought you were in on it.
And then they said no. Then they realized I wasn't, right? But they still fired me. And they said, and I said, all right, where's my check? Right? I need my check for all the others, for the stuff I did last month. They're like, just leave. They walked me out, and I kept calling. I'm like, where's my check? So, dude, I am so broke at this point. I'm so devastated. I am like so in shock. This could have been a movie. I'm like trying to figure out, do I spend money on gas to get home? Do I save the money? Because I have no idea when they're actually going to pay me, if they're going to pay me. I get home, and it gets late, and I get home, and I see my roommate throwing my shit out into the yard. His dad was the landlord. I was like a month behind rent, and he was like, pay my dad. It was the same dude I saved his life.
What?
That
Wait.
same guy.
So the guy you were in training with, he fucks you by scamming the place and stealing the car. Guy you had a beer with, like hanging out, right? And now your roommate, who you saved his life doing CPR, is throwing your shit on the lawn because you're a month late on rent?
Yeah, and he's like, get out, right? Pay my dad or get out. And we get into like a little scuffle, right? No punches were thrown, but I grabbed my bag. He actually packed it for me. So I grabbed my bag. I didn't have much. I threw it in the car. Dude, I was at that point literally homeless. Like, where do you go? I went to my office, dude. I went to my office. I put my head down. Just started crying, dude. I said, I'm a good guy. Why am I going through all this? So that taught me a couple of things. One, thank God that happened to me, because I wouldn't be here today. I'd probably still be doing what I was doing. So that was life, course corrected me. And two, being a good person isn't good enough, unfortunately. You have to be very deliberate in how you want your life to unfold. Not only set goals, but visualize how you want your life to be. Sometimes when you make it to the top, you forget to keep doing that. Sometimes it's easier to make it to the top and it's harder to stay there. So that's my story, man. A story that I never wanted to tell anybody.
Welcome to the top.
Oh, yeah.
We killing annual quotas. It's the 1%er show, in case you haven't noticed.